What is up, my friends? We've actually done it. We've managed to have a night without a live stream and no massive news story breaking. But fear not, I will be back tomorrow at 8:45 for the late night agenda. Tonight, though, we're going to focus on Alexander Isak. We're going to speak about the possibility of next year Liverpool moving from Michael Olise. Yep, you did hear me right. We'll discuss what a Bayern fan account has had to say about Olise and a release clause. We'll also talk about Mark Gay, we'll touch on Eberechi Eze and a few other bits and pieces that we hope keep you right up to date with where we're at in this summer's transfer window. A reminder, there's just about 2 weeks to go, so any business the Reds have to do, we really need to get a move on with. So let's get straight into it because there is a lot to get through. I want to start off with a statement from Merseyside Police. They say, we've arrested a man, 47, from Liverpool on suspicion of a racially aggravated public order offence after reports of racist abuse directed at Bournemouth's Antoine Semenyo during the game against Liverpool on Friday, August the 15th. And again, I want to reiterate from everybody here, and I know in our fan base, no place for this in the sport. Antoine Semenyo or any other black player or any player shouldn't have to suffer any type of abuse for their skin colour, their sexual orientation, their religion or anything else. We all want football to be a fully inclusive sport. And again, we stand with Antoine Semenyo. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about the Canade Gay situation because still today lots of talk about Liverpool and the deal being on for Mark Gay. I'd love it. I'd love to see a world where Mark Gay and Eberechi Eze are both at the club. Just like I mentioned earlier on, I really do have my doubts about it. But reading through the comments, some of you guys a bit more optimistic on it. But do let me know in the comments if you can. Do you think there's a world where Canade signs an extension and Mark Gay signs? A couple of people saying that maybe we sign Mark Gay and let Canade run down his contract. That could be a possibility, but let me know in the comments. Right, I'm going to move on to Eberechi Eze, not because it links to Liverpool, but because, well, it could be a player Arsenal aren't getting. Alex Crook tonight and various reports are saying that Spurs are pushing hard to sign Eberechi Eze and confident that a deal is close. £68 million release clause now expired and Spurs looking to pay closer to £60 million. Crystal Palace deciding whether to play Eze versus Chelsea tomorrow or not. Now look, this would be a great signing for Spurs, but it would also be a bit of a dent in Arsenal fans' confidence. Let me know what you guys think on this one. Would you be relieved to see Eberechi Eze go towards Spurs instead of Arsenal, or do you think Mikel Arteta's men will have another forward up their sleeve to get before the window shuts? Right, Romano, speaking about the situation with Isak and Eddie Howe, said, I hope the Isak situation gets resolved quickly, said Eddie Howe. But Romano said Liverpool are on it. We'd like a resolution, Eddie Howe said. We need clarity. I'm not in control of it, but my stance has been pretty clear. Liverpool have a new proposal ready, said Fabrizio Romano, to be sent as soon as Newcastle decide, and it could be a Premier League record. So there was reports last week, I think maybe it was Ben Jacobs, but excuse me if I'm wrong on that, that said that Liverpool feel that the £110 million offer that they had rejected by Newcastle isn't too far off the amount that might actually get the deal done. I've always said to you guys, these talks of £150 million are nonsense. I think somewhere between 120, 130 will probably get the deal done. Football Insider, they say Newcastle want to bring to an end the toxic situation around Alexander Isak. Liverpool are preparing an offer of £120 million to sign the Swedish striker. Now that £120 million would be a British transfer record, eclipsing the £116.5 million that Liverpool have committed to pay for Florian Wirtz, and of course the £115 million that Chelsea paid for former Liverpool target Moise Caicedo. So for me, I would be very happy with that. I've always said I don't really see what the plan B is here. It feels like Liverpool allowing Ben Doak to move out, having sold Luis Diaz, having sold Darwin Núñez, must have been confident that there was another forward that would be arriving in, and certainly feels like that confidence is on Alexander Isak. So I had a quick look at some of the betting odds for it as well, and here are some of the odds for Liverpool to sign these players. So we'll start off with Rodrigo, 14 to 1, very outside chance there, no money going down on that one. Ollie Watkins, well, even further, 33 to 1. But then we get to a couple of interesting ones. Eberechi Eze, 10 to 1. Personally, I've never seen that as a realistic option for Liverpool. Again, the age profile of Eze doesn't seem to be in fitting with what Liverpool would do. And then Isak, 2 to 5 on. And if you don't understand betting odds, basically that means that you have to put £5 on to win £2, meaning the bookies believe it is far, far more likely than unlikely based on the money going down. So it does look as if there could be a nice little twist in a positive sense for us at the end of this window. Eddie Howe, speaking about the situation, said, we're keen for a resolution, We're keen for a resolution because the consistent noise around the team isn't helpful for any team. We're aware of that. We would like closure on it. We're not in charge of when. Now, I want to take you back to the Bayern Space comments I read out yesterday around the Michael Olise situation, because I've been thinking about this quite a bit since I read this. And if the release clause that I'm about to talk to you about is true, it would be an ideal signing to replace Mohamed Salah longer term at Liverpool. We know Salah has signed a new deal for 2 years at the club. But if Olise's release clause becomes active next year, as I'm about to explain, even age-wise, 24 then, I think he would be an ideal bit of recruitment from Liverpool to bring to the club to help the transition of when Mohamed Salah does eventually leave. So let me read out to you what the Bayern Space account said. I can now reveal that Michael Olise has a release clause in his contract, first valid in the summer of 2026. Now, what I would say, folks, is this account has been really good and others say not so good. But with Liverpool, anything that they've said about the likes of Florian Wirtz and stuff has come to fruition. So I've certainly been paying attention. Max Erbel agreed to the inclusion of this release clause during negotiations with the players' representatives. Went on to say they're convinced that without such a release clause, he wouldn't be a realistic signing for Bayern to make. And I remember when Bayern did sign Olise, I think I said it on the video, certainly said it on streams, it was a surprise to me that they were able to bring in Olise. We knew City were interested, I think Chelsea were interested as well, but for Bayern to get him really did feel like a massive show of strength. Now, if that release clause is in there and it becomes active, like I'm about to explain, starts to make a bit more sense. Of course, the Bundesliga and Bayern are a big club, but Olise to leave the Prem, to go there, I always wondered why, but maybe it's because he wanted to keep getting experience, of course, playing at a high level, and then maybe move back to the Prem, to one of the big clubs. So this piece here said that without that, they wouldn't believe that they would have had a chance to get Olise out of the Premier League. In doing so, he accepted a figure comfortably within the reach for several English clubs, effectively ensuring a return to England for Olise would always remain a possibility. Inside Bayern Munich, there is a clear expectation that Liverpool and Manchester City will be Olise's preferred destinations should he decide to leave after the World Cup, which is another important factor here. Olise wanted to make sure that he was in the manager's thinking for the World Cup, and obviously Didier Deschamps will be paying attention to Bayern Munich and the Champions League, and Olise has done very well there. Once that release clause in his contract becomes active, he goes on to say both clubs are long-term admirers who have followed the progress for years and are expected to act decisively when the opportunity arises, those clubs being Liverpool and Manchester City. Chelsea were also seriously interested, but Olise rejected their approach at the time. It is still expected they will return with interest once his release clause becomes valid. Although within Bayern, the belief is that such will depend on Chelsea's sporting development over the next year, as Olise is thought to be unwilling to commit unless their project aligns with his ambitions. So basically, folks, to cut a long story short, the talked about proposal here is that next season his release clause becomes active. Now, whether Liverpool or Manchester City or anybody else go immediately to try to trigger that, or in Liverpool's case, maybe wait till, let's say, halfway through the following season to see what Mohamed Salah's numbers are like. Either way, if you said to me whether it be next year or the year after that Liverpool go back to bring in Olise, I would be very happy with that, even if, of course, this was the 60, 70 million pound striker that Dave O.C. Kopp was talking about Liverpool maybe getting this year. And by that, I mean the amount of money, not the exact player. I'd be more than open to it. I think it'd be an incredible bit of business. And at an age where he'd be, 24, 25 at that point, Olise feels like a Michael Edwards, Richard Hughes type of signing, a career before his Liverpool career. And again, a very good age profile to come in and pick up some of the mantle that will be departed by Mohamed Salah when he eventually leaves the club. So look, it's a little bit, hypothetical at the minute, but it does make sense, and it's something that I just wanted to again reiterate and bring to your attention. So that is it for me tonight, my friends. Hopefully tomorrow when we're back live 8:45, we'll have a bit more information on the Isak situation, and of course we'll also know the result then of the Manchester United Arsenal game, and we see who we get to banter, or maybe we get to banter both if it's a draw. Right, folks, I will see you tomorrow. Enjoy your weekend. If you're going to Oasis, if you're lucky enough here in Ireland to be headed to one of the shows Saturday or Sunday, have a wonderful time, and I will see you back here 8:45. Much love. Bye bye.